Welcome to 284 Media's Just for the Record. I am Jacka Wooding, and today I am joined by at-large candidate for the Patriotic Citizens Movement, Mr. Ishmael Brathwaite. We explore his bid in this general election after this quick commercial break.
There are many ways to enjoy life, like so many ways to count on popular.
Rashford made it. Manchester United have come from behind to lead.
At home or on the go, watch CCT Live. Download our app and carry your favorite TV shows, news, or live sports anywhere you go. Visit cctbvi.com/live, select your package, and tune in.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. And of course, Mr. Brathwaite, thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, now set the stage for me. Walk me through your academic training and your professional career.
Well, I graduated from high school in 1965. And I immediately went on to College of the Virgin Islands, which is now the University of the Virgin Islands. I spent 4 years there working on my bachelor's degree. I majored in biological science and mathematics. During that time, I engaged in, it was actually during the civil rights period. So the civil rights activities were very, very rampant. So I got caught up in that kind of thing because it would be very difficult to avoid it during that time because it was a worldwide movement. So because of that, being a student government representative, I was caught many times to lead certain civil rights activities. So that is where I developed my interest in political matters. Because although I was a science major in college, I realized at that point in time that one political decision can change the whole direction of your career. I experienced that kind of thing in college, so I began to continue pursuing political matters from that point on. Mm-hmm. After graduating from college, I went on to New York City to pursue graduate studies. So I studied various things. I studied education, graduate studies. I studied political science on the graduate level. And I studied teacher education. I realized that in order to be involved in politics, you need to know a lot of things. So I orient myself that way. I also pursued other technical training in electricity, plumbing, and so forth in order to be able to maintain myself. Because I realized that those activities were also very expensive. And I had later got involved with real estate, so I needed to know a lot of things like that. I also, after I graduated from graduate school, I engaged in teaching. I taught young adults on the New York State Educational Department level. I taught there for approximately 10 years, where I met a lot of young people who were also involved with the civil rights movement. It was a very interesting and very engaging period when people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and other civil rights leaders like that who were alive, Jesse Jackson and others, Louis Farrakhan, very, very active period. So In the capacity of teaching, I really touch the lives of a lot of people. I returned home in 1986. And after having been involved in all those activities overseas, I realized that the political affairs of the BVI were moving in the wrong direction. It seemed as if like the sense of the 60s, particularly civil rights activities, it seemed like it had never passed for the BVI. Because it seemed like they were in the wrong direction, sorry. So I get involved in the local politics from that time. So I kept speaking out on the things that I thought were wrong, which got me into a lot of trouble with the local governments, but I never stopped speaking out. I ran for election about twice, unsuccessfully, but I never stopped speaking out. Now, in my judgment, the direction of the country, which I would call mismanagement, never really stopped. And it continued until we now arrive at this point where the UK government has come in and checked our behavior. And since things had never changed since 1986, it seems as if there is still a place for me in politics until those desirable changes that I think should take place. So right now, the position of the country with the order in councils hanging over our head, it's the first time since I returned to the country that we have found ourselves in this position. I noticed that the electorate are a lot more sensitive to the kind of management that the country has been experiencing, and there's a lot of concern about the way forward from now. So I think that is the extent of my involvement, academic training, and so on and so forth. I did a lot of things since I came in at BVI. I engaged in, for example, we set up the first Black Businessmen Association here in the BVI. I was the secretary and vice president. And later on, that Black Businessmen Association evolved into the present Chamber of Commerce. And I have been the first executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. And later, the Hotel and Commerce Association took over the Chamber of Commerce. So I never continued with them. My primary activity since then has been running my family company, because I realized that there was necessity for that kind of involvement due to the condition of the state of my family estate. And I thought that I could make a contribution in that area. So I've been working on that ever since. And right now, I have created business opportunities for people who needed space to do business. So I'm managing that aspect of the development. We came a long way. There was a lot of problems along the way, but we came to that point, and we're still working on that project, and that is a full-time activity for me.
All right. Now, you did mention that your decision to contest this election really stands with issues that have endured decades in the territory.
Yes, that's correct.
What are some of those issues?
Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yo, everything good there?
Aye. This thing got me one way, daddy.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this thing like you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out that trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
She? I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turn into 5. 5 months turn into, well, you know I hustle. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us.
You did mention that your decision to contest this election really stands with issues that have endured decades in the territory.
Yes, that's correct.
What are some of those issues?
Well, my primary concern was that I noticed that the tendency of our political leaders was to invite investors to come to the country, do business, more or less take over the businesses, and provide jobs for the locals. I thought that was a big mistake, was the wrong thing to do. I thought, because Beaver Islanders are landowners, so I thought the direction should have been, or the emphasis should have been, to try to develop investment funds for the locals to develop their own property. And then I also noticed that the emphasis was on tourism. And they also try to encourage outside investors to come into the country to more or less manage that sector also. I also disagree with that, because those kind of investors try to change the natural nature of the country, so that when tourists come here, instead of really experiencing the BVI flavor, they experience what those outside developers have developed for them when they come here. So they miss the real essence of the culture of the BVI. It has come a long way since then. Lots of things have changed, so that a lot of BVI landlords are now managing a lot of the enterprises and so on and so forth. But we could have been much further ahead if we had started in that direction from way back when I was first talking about it. Of course, we have been subject to political mismanagement of the political affairs of the country. Those activities have been unchecked for years and years and years and years and years, until it has become the culture of the country. Political mismanagement has become the culture of the country. Until now, it got so bad that the UK decided to check our behavior. And as you know, you might not have known how long this was going on, but you know now that we have the COI here in the country, and that we under this order in council, and that this is a concern of everyone. It should have been a concern of everyone before, so that we could have checked ourselves and not be subject to what we are subject to right now. But I'm glad that we have come to a point where the UK has checked us, so that we can realize that we were heading in the wrong direction for a long time. So I'm hoping that from here on in, we will practice good governance in the country, and hopefully, eventually, that would be conducive to independence.
A lot of people seem to be focusing on the critical point of the arrest of Premier Andrew Foy and the decisions that have been made since then. So, what are your views on that critical period of time in BVI politics? And is there anything you would have done differently had you been called to pick up the mantle and lead the territory from that point onwards?
I would have done a lot of things different. I actually was invited to participate, to be a candidate on the Virgin Islands Party slate under the same former Premier Andrew Foy. And I objected because I was accustomed to the kind of political management that they executed. And as I said, I did not think that they were moving in the right direction. I also was invited to participate on the NDP slate, which I also refused because they themselves were not practicing the kind of politics that I thought needed to have happened in the territory. Now, that's a very sensitive question to ask me. What would I have done if I was in a position to carry on the mantle? Well, given the circumstances of what happened to Premier, there wasn't much different we could have done because the COI had already happened, and we were put in a position after the arrest to make certain decisions under duress. So it was either you comply or your country will be taken over. So I guess our representatives made a good decision in terms of forming the unity government. But really, there isn't much different you could have done under the circumstances, because if you had not done that, the country could have been taken over by the UK. However, in terms of the kind of management, political management, I would have executed prior to that whole experience, would have been totally different. Because I do not think that good governance was practiced in the country. So my kind of management would have been totally different, and I can assure you that it would not have led to the investigations that took place under the current government. So basically, I don't want to go too much further into that because unless you want to ask me a different kind of question, because there really nothing much more we could have done differently to what the unity government has done, given the short period of time and the intensity of the activities, the pressure from the COI. There isn't anything much you could have done. Then right after that came the pressure of the prospective election. The territory was not even sure if there was going to be an election. So there wasn't much flexibility to make objective decisions. So actually we are paying the price for our past behavior. And I'm hoping that we correct that from here on in.
All right. Now, you mentioned an important point in terms of correcting that from here in, and that would be the duty of the next elected government. Should you be elected to serve as part of that government, what are some measures you would like to implement in the short term to push things in the right direction?
Well, I'm hearing all kinds of reasons, all kinds of programs on the campaign trail that the various candidates would do if they get elected. And I have my own programs that I would like to do also, some of which are similar to the ones I'm hearing on the campaign trail. But I have not heard one shred of evidence from the candidates how they are going to raise new sources of revenue to pay for these different programs that they have in mind. I'm very concerned about that because the reason why we have certain kind of problems right now is because we don't have enough resources to take care of the things that have to be done. I heard some of the candidates say that we don't have a money problem, we have a management problem. But my analysis tells me that we have both a money problem and a management problem. The reason why we have the problem we have is because there's not enough money to take care of to fund the different projects that have to be done, which constitute the infrastructure of the country and education, health, agriculture, waste management, and a host of other problems, which would take me almost all day to itemize. But the bottom line is, what I think is needed to resolve all those matters is to develop new sources of revenue. And I am passionate about developing new sources of revenue. And I have my eyes on particular sources of revenue, which I might not want to go into unless you insist on asking me. And the reason why I am reluctant to do that is because presently we have the Outlying Council overhead by the UK government. And the things that I'm looking at, the UK government might not be desirous of those things happening in the BVI. So I like to be cautious about how I mention those things. I mean, I've been on the air a lot, almost every day talking about those things, so the information is out anyway. But those issues, it seems to me as if those issues should be real confidential issues for government to be developing privately. I remember the last time we spoke about the kinds of programs that I'm thinking about. Barbados immediately developed the same kind of program that I was thinking about. And since then, they have declared themselves to be a republic. So I have a feeling that they're very confident that those programs are working for them to the extent where they can declare themselves a republic. I've been following them all the time, and they kept us expanding on those same programs, and we should have been doing it. So I'm passionate about the potential development of our financial services to the extent where we can attract the level of new resources to take care of the needs of the country. So the future of the country is bright because the solution is right down the road. But it all depends on the kind of representatives that are elected to the new House of Assembly that will determine whether or not these programs will take place. So I'm hoping that I'm one of those candidates so that I can redirect the financial economy of the BVI to such an extent that we can generate the adequate resources that we need to take care of all the needs of the country.
All right, now I'm sure our viewers are intrigued. I certainly am, and you did say that if I insist, you will delve into the projects that you're seeking to implement. So, take it away.
Stay tuned for more Just for the Record after these messages.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites.
It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.
Today, I am doing coral treatments with Beyond the Reef. Today, we are doing shark research. So today, we are doing whale research with Beyond the Reef. And wherever I go, I take CCT with me because my life is unlimited.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us.
I'm sure our viewers are intrigued. I certainly am. And you did say that if I insist, you will delve into the projects that you're seeking to implement. So, take it away.
Do you want to know?
Absolutely.
All right. My research tells me that up to $1.5 trillion passes through this country and goes to other countries to develop their economy. But none of that money stays here in the BVI to develop our economy. Now, our government seems to be insensitive to these sources of revenue. As you know, they're very good to dip into our social security resources and to borrow from banks. But these sources I'm thinking about, if the government had a proper structure in place, could attract a substantial amount of that money without having to repay it and without having to be subject to this stressful interest payment. Now, how can that happen? In order for that money to pass from overseas through our country to get to other country, it has to pass through a local agent. And if agents don't work for free, on the average they work from 1 to 10% commission on those kind of transactions, depending on how they're able to negotiate. Mm-hmm. But let's consider that they work for a 1% commission, 1% on that kind of transaction that I just described. The revenue from that would be $1.5 billion. Our government gets none of that. The various trust company managers who were involved with this kind of transaction, they're the ones that get the money. So if there are 10 of them, and there are actually about 10 of them who control this economy in the BVI. So that $1.5 trillion will be split up between them. Our government gets none of that. So this circle of the money coming from overseas, passing through the trust companies, going back overseas, we are outside that circle. Now, as a government, the government can set up specific structures to be able to capture some of that money in the form of certain fees that governments are accustomed to charge. on transactions like those. And if that happens, we would net up to $1 billion per month. $1 billion per month. Now, I have only spoken about one of such transactions, but there are several of those transactions passing through the territory, going elsewhere, that we are not getting any of. And if we set up the proper structures in the country, we can also capitalize off the funds that we can get from those other sources. Now, if you think about that, our budget is approximately $350 million per year. Imagine if we begin to collect $1 to $2 billion per month. What that would do to our economy. I submit to you that we cannot spend that money. So it will be able to take care of all the problems we have, whatever the country needs, without having to be going through the kind of problem that we're going through now due to the absence of funds. And I can't understand why it's so difficult for our leaders to see that we need to do this. So this would revolutionize our entire economy. All of us would benefit if we were to set up those structures and try to capture the share of those revenues that we need to capture as a government. I think that's about as far as I want to go with that. But the thing I want to stick in your mind is that there are several of those transactions going on at the same time that we can set up to capture our share. And just think about what that can do to our economy in terms of fixing all our infrastructure, scholarships, curriculum expansion for the high school and college, develop all the programs you want to develop, NHI could be free, that kind of thing. So I'm hoping that I get elected. And if I'm not elected, I'm hoping that the government would at least try to elicit my services so I can make a contribution to the country in that regards.
All right. Now, in terms of revenue generation and industries that the BVI may want to explore, a major discussion that has been going on is the cannabis industry. Of course, there's been the stalling in terms of having local legislation assented to. But outside of that, is the cannabis industry something you would support the exploration of?
Boy, we're not looking at my view on that. I do not subscribe to the attitude, the global attitude to the cannabis industry. Number one, because it happens to be a natural product, natural, that can grow in your backyard, my backyard, everybody's backyard. And it's being done all over the world. It has been utilized for military benefits when they see it fit, but they can't do it, but the local person who can grow it in the backyard can't use it. It has been used traditionally for medicinal purposes, but of course there are certain ingredients in the product that is subject to abuse, and I think that's what they're looking at mostly. But I can support the legalization of the industry. I can support that, provided it's maturely handled and is controlled so that we don't attract the kind of criticism and abuse that goes along with it when it's not properly used, when it's not properly controlled. Anything that is grown naturally and has significant use, I'm for that. We just have to learn how to control it. So I don't have a problem with that. I didn't want you to air my views on how it has been handled traditionally, because I know, in my judgment, that is also an abuse, but it's on a different level, governmental level. So what the government approves is not considered to be abuse or illegal. But if you, a citizen, use the same thing in your own private kind of way, you're subject to arrest and so on and so forth for the rest of your life in some cases. So that's why I didn't want to air my view on that particular thing. But in terms of looking at it from a natural perspective, I have no objection to legalizing, supporting something that grows naturally.
Right. Now, another topical area that has been buzzing in the BVI, especially recently, given possible legal action that may relate, or should I say legal action going on that may result in changes being forced upon the territory. So far that the Premier has said that he is willing to take the BVI to its first referendum to meet a national decision on the issue. That, of course, is same-sex marriage. So what are your views on how the BVI should proceed in that regard?
The subject of same-sex marriage. Personally, I will not, in a summary, I am not in favor with legalizing same-sex marriage. But I am also aware that we are not an independent country. And certain things can be imposed upon us. And if I was Premier, I would not even take it to referendum. However, if it got to a point where the UK tried to impose that policy on us, of course I would try to educate the country about my views on it. And I'll probably, if it gets to that point, do conduct the referendum if I'm forced to. But if it was my voluntary choice, I will not even address the subject, because I'm totally against it.
All right, thank you for your response. Let's continue on topical issues. Cost of living has been a matter of concern for people across the BVI. So what are your views on cost of living, and what do you think can be done to make that more manageable for the people?
There are several reasons that result in the cost of living right now. But because we just went through the hurricane, then we went through the COVID experience. And because of that, many factories were closed down. So a lot of things that used to be produced before and not producing to the original capacity. On top of that, the war in Ukraine is presenting a very special problem. Now, we are part of a global community, and we have to understand how global issues affect us. I know the cost of living has skyrocketed to a certain level where it's unaffordable to a lot of us. But in terms of being able to combat that, again, it boils down to revenue. Now, if the cost of living has skyrocketed, and at the same time, our revenue is going down or remain stagnant, there's very little we can do to help those situations. So as I said, it boils down to the way we manage our financial affairs in terms of being sensitive enough to maximize the new sources of revenue to the extent where we can buffer any natural situation or man-made situations that affect us to the extent where our cost of living skyrocket out of our control. So I'm still hopeful because I know where we can get those resources very quickly, as I explained earlier, and substantial amount. We are a very small territory and we can't spend that kind of money I'm thinking about. So even if I don't get elected, I'm hoping that our elected representative focus on those things so that we can take care of skyrocketing cost of living if it happens. The other thing is, I think something that would have gone a long way is if we had developed a strong agriculture program to the extent where we could feed ourselves or almost feed ourselves. And that would help us against those unforeseen factors that cause our cost of living to increase. Because I'm not a youngster. I grew up when agriculture was very rampant in the country, and you could have drive from East End to West End, and you would be seeing agriculture all along the way. So they can't tell me it can't happen. Now, I would like to make reference to something else. I noticed that after Hurricane Irma and Maria, all the leaves are blown off the trees. You could stay from the bottom of a forest and see the top, just looking through the trees, no leaves, nothing. I even heard a talk show host say he was concerned about where we were going to get fresh oxygen from since we didn't have any more leaves on the trees. But immediately after that, vegetation began to grow everywhere that it had not grown before. So they can't tell me that certain kinds of products cannot be produced in certain locations. That taught us a lesson if you're looking at what's happening. I'm telling you that vegetation grew up everywhere. And plants that I did not have in my garden start growing up because the wind blew seeds and everything in my garden and just started growing up. I had more papayas in my yard that I could eat, even now. So it can happen. But we have to make provisions for that so that when these natural disasters come, or any other disaster, we can take care of ourselves. Now, we don't know how long the Ukraine war is going to continue. We don't know what effect it will have on us. It's going to affect our food. It's going to affect the energy that we use to survive, for electricity, for run our stove, and so on and so forth. And we have to be vigilant about these things. So I'm hoping that those factors would cause us to wake up and start a strong agriculture program in the country so that we can assist, help to feed ourselves and keep down the cost of living.
All right. Thank you so much for your time today, Mr. Brathwaite, and for your responses. Of course, I hope that Virgin Islanders find this information helpful in their journey in navigating this 2023 general election. Again, I am Jacko Wooding, and this has been Just for the Record.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Morrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites. It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.